Hi, I'm Will Powers, and if you like the artwork behind me and would like to talk to me about making a purchase, you can email me at mtn.charley, CHARLEY, at sbcglobal.net. And this is Inverse News, nostalgia for the present. I cover stories behind the story that isn't being told, strange things people will deny are true, but the official story isn't always right, and many times the official story is a cover-up for the real facts. Stanford University wants to deny their heritage has any mystical or occult origins. However, they do admit the campus was built as a memorial for Leland Jr., Leland Stanford's only child, who died at the age of 15 of typhoid in 1884. It is also well known that Leland Jr. passed away on a tour of Europe, where he showed a keen interest in Egyptian artifacts, and they do mention Jane Stanford, Leland's wife, went on 2 tours of Egypt after her son died, but they don't go into even a small selection of the entire collection in the Stanford archive that included a real Egyptian mummy and papyrus with faint hieroglyphics, and even a few items that have a spiritual or occultist nature. Jane showed a keen interest in contacting the dead and speaking to the spirit of her son through a medium. Stanford U doesn't bring up Jane's frequent visit with Charles Bailey, a medium who conducted seances. Was the idea for Stanford University conceived during a seance? Possibly. They also deny there was a secret tunnel system that was built before the turn of the 20th century on land Leland Stanford now owns, then owned by Peter Coutts, a fictitious name. Coutts was fleeing from embezzlement charges in France and built what I believe is an alchemist tower on his land. The alchemist tower is a lab used to convert lead into gold, and it has the open roof that was required to see the correct alignment of the stars. That was a part of the ceremony. The tower has no entranceway, and the only way in was from underneath the structure, which was circular. I believe a triangular tunnel system connected the Alchemist Tower to entrances on Old La Honda Road and Old Alpine Road in the foothills of Palo Alto. I know someone personally that I trust who has told me numerous times that he personally witnessed the entrance to these tunnels. I talk about Peter Coutts in my story on Arliss Perry. Perry was killed in the Stanford Chapel in 1974 in the most brutal way possible. A horrific scene you can't imagine, but you can read about it if you wish in my story on the murder in the Stanford Chapel. But news reports say her body was found in the pews. However, I dispute this. The guard who found the body lived in the same apartment building as Jim, a personal friend of mine, who told me he spoke to the guard after the murder, and the guard told him he found the body on the altar. The name of the guard was Steve Crawford, and he not only found the body, but as it turned out, over 40 years later, he was also responsible for her death. So the murderer told Jim the body was found on the altar, and he no doubt left it there. My article on Frank Edwards is the only site on the internet that goes into great detail about his life and stories. An amazing broadcast journalist, Edwards, who had a top-rated news show in the 50s, wrote incredible but true stories. He was censored in 1952 for telling the truth about Eisenhower, who was working to suppress his left-wing views from being spread over the airwaves. Then there's the story about the talking horse that informed Edwards, as well as others, that a missing boy would be found in winter. The horse had a unique method of communicating with humans. He would flip the letters on blocks that were strung together in his stall, using his nose like this. He actually knew the alphabet and how to spell. That is one amazing horse. He told Frank and the assembled crowd, in his way, that the boy was dead and he died accidentally. He wasn't kidnapped, and his body would be found in December. Frank risked his reputation by broadcasting the story on the air about the talking horse, and people ridiculed Edwards. But in the end, Edwards' reputation was vindicated, and the horse was right. On the afternoon of December 5th, 2 teenage boys found the body of little Ronnie Whitecamp, lying in a ditch, as the horse predicted. Pathologists determined that Ronnie had actually been dead at the time the horse was interviewed by Frank. And that's just one of his amazing stories. You could read more about him in my Frank Edwards story and find a lot of other great stories at Inverse News, Nostalgia for the Present. I'm Will Powers, and thank you for listening.